जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। Thank you once again, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, for kindly hosting today's talk. I'm very thankful to all the wonderful devotees. And uh, before I begin, I'd just like to say that especially last week, I could not answer any of the queries in the WhatsApp group because I've sprained my shoulder. It's difficult to type. But still, I am here trying to somehow persevere. And dear devotees, I hope that after I get well, I'll be able to answer all the queries. But for the time being, I have paused the Q&A group because I'm unable to answer the queries because of a sprained shoulder. But I'm very happy. I welcome all of you to this 30th session of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. And before we begin, dear devotees, I'd once again like to offer the verse that has been composed for this particular verse of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. Eka tvani dvevasthayam tridehe vakchatushtaye panchatatve षडक्षेषु सप्तचक्रेषु मे तथा सदा विशतु गौरांग महाप्रभुमुखोद्गतं रम्यं शिक्षाष्टकं येन धन्यः स्याम भूरि भूरिशः. In the one soul, two states, living and dead, three bodies, gross, subtle, and causal, four levels of speech, para, pashyanti, madhyama, and vaikhari, five elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, six senses, mind and five gross senses, and seven chakras, Mooladhar, Swadhishthan, Manipur, Anahat, Vishuddha, Agya, and Sahasrar, belonging to me. May there be complete permeation of the 8 delightful Shikshashtakam verses emanating from Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's mouth. By such permeation, I shall certainly become greatly and exceedingly fortunate. Dear devotees, it is also our system to have a new verse every time in every session of Shri Shikshashtakam, a fresh verse about the glories of Sri Harinam. And here is a verse compiled by Sri Rupa Goswami in the Padyavali, but originally by Srila Sridhar Swami. Srila Rupa Goswami says that this verse was originally composed by Srila Sridhar Swami. It's a wonderful verse in the meter Shikharini. I'll try to sing. Please hear carefully. Sada sarvatraste nanu vimalam adyam tava padam तथाप्येकं स्तोकं न हि भवतारोपात्रमभिना क्षणं जिह्वाग्रस्थं तव तु भगवन्नामनिखिलम् समूलं संसारं कषति कातरस्य व्यमनयो. Srila Sridhar Swami says, Sada sarvatraste. Now there is a background story to this particular verse. Srila Sridhar Swami, the celebrated commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, stayed in Kashi, Varanasi. And Varanasi is where Brahma Vidya, where knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is taught very prominently. So Srila Sridhar Swami, however, although he had taken sannyas in the sampradaya of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, but his heart was dedicated to the personal form of Bhagavan. And every day he would worship his Ishtadev, his worshipable deity, Shri Nrsimhadev. So one particular day, another sannyasi from the Advaita school saw Srila Sridhar Swami and said, "Why are you still stuck with names and forms? You should instead be transcending all names and forms and meditating on the impersonal Brahman. Why are you still stuck with the name Narsimha and this form of half lion, half man?" Srila Sridhar Swami did not say anything. When he was asked again the next day, he did not say anything. He tolerated. But upon being asked a third time, Srila Sridhar Swami looked at his deity of Bhagavan Narsimhadev and spoke something to Narsimhadev. And in his question to Sri Narsimhadev, he answered the impersonalist who was asking him since 3 days why Srila Sridhar Swami is still attached to Bhagavan's Naam and Bhagavan's form. So Srila Sridhar Swami, looking at Narsimhadev, said, Sada sarvatra aste. Sada, always. Sarvatra aste. It is present everywhere. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, there is something which is present everywhere and has occupied each and every corner of existence. It has no form, no shape, no qualities, no pastimes. Can you tell me what is it known as?
Brahman.
Brahman. Sada sarvatra aste nanu. Definitely, is it not so? Bhagavan, definitely, this is the case. Vimalam adyam tava padam. That original Brahman aspect of yours. Tava padam. It's very important that he says that Brahma is tava padam, is your aspect, which means that he places Bhagavan above the impersonal Brahman. So Bhagavan, is it not true that tava padam, your original aspect of the impersonal Brahman, is it not present everywhere? Certainly it is present everywhere. And it has always been present like this. And so many births have passed for me, for all the living entities. Tathapi ekam stokam nahi bhavataroh patram abhinat. Ekam stokam. Stokam means tiny. Even a tiny leaf from my tree of karma, even a tiny leaf from my tree of material existence was not broken by this impersonal Brahman. What did this impersonal Brahman do for my benefit? The impersonal Brahman cannot do anything. There is only one thing that the impersonal Brahman can do: exist. Asti. That is the only thing the impersonal Brahman does. So, Bhagavan, so many lives passed. And what did this impersonal Brahman do to cut down the tree of my material existence? Forget about cutting down the tree. It did not even pluck a small leaf from that tree. And Bhagavan, Kshanam, even for a moment, Jihva agrastham, if on the tip of the jiva, if on the tip of the tongue, Tavatu Bhagavan Nama Nikhilam, if your name arises on even on the tip of the tongue, then what does it do? Nikhilam Samulam Samsaram Kashati. It thoroughly chops down that tree, that entire tree down to its roots. It uproots that tree completely. So, Bhagavan, I'm asking you a question. Katarat Sevyamanayoh. Amongst these two, the impersonal Brahman and your Naam, which one should we serve? Bhagavan, please tell me. So, by asking this question, Srila Sridhar Swami answered the impersonalist who was pestering him since the last few days. Here is the translation, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu. Kindly read the translation.
O Bhagavan, is your spotless impersonal manifestation not always present everywhere? It certainly is. Still, it has not been able to break away even a single small leaf from the tree of repeated birth and death. On the other hand, the moment your name is uttered by the tongue, That name thoroughly shatters that tree of birth and death down to its roots. Tell us, O Bhagavan, of these two, the impersonal Brahman and Harinam, which one should be served?
So, Dhāmeśvara Mahaprabhu, this is a rhetorical question. What is the answer? Please tell me.
The holy name.
Yes. So, this is a very sweet verse in Shri Padyavali, compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. The original author of this verse is Srila Sridhar Swami. He is a devotee in the sampradaya of Shri Adi Shankaracharya. So there are many individuals who were in the sampradaya of Shri Adi Shankaracharya, but who did not fully agree with Shri Adi Shankaracharya on all aspects of the philosophy. And I have specified this in previous talks that some aspects of the philosophy of Shri Adi Shankaracharya have a deep impression of previous schools of Buddhism. And therefore, it is natural that there will be individuals who will not agree with some of those principles. And Srila Sridhar Swami is also one of them. We are continuing our discussion of the second verse. Nam namakari bahudha nija sarva shaktis tatrarpitani yamitah smaranena kalaha etādṛśī tava kṛpā bhagavan mamāpi durdaivam īdṛśam ihājani nānurāgaḥ. So we have already discussed the Anvay and translation many times, but we are fixing our attention on the final part. etādṛśī tava kṛpā bhagavan mamāpi durdaivam īdṛśam ihājani nānurāgaḥ. Such is your causeless mercy, O Bhagavan. Yet my misfortune is such that no genuine attachment was developed by me in these names. And the Acharyas have pointed out that there are many obstacles to developing genuine attachment, primarily the 10 namaprads. Now we will gradually deal with all the namaprads. But Dhāmeśvara Mahaprabhu, after ensuring that the namaprads are eliminated, is there a guarantee that Krishna Prem will automatically arise?
No.
Because namaprads are negatives, and removing namaprad is removing the negatives. And Krishna Prem is something within the positive domain. So it is said in the Chaitanya Charitamritam, although nirapradhe nama laile paye premadhan. One gets prema by uttering nam in a manner free from aparads. But at the same time, the final bestowal of prema is decided by Bhagavan. And therefore, the Acharyas say that even though there may be individuals who are free from the 10 aparads and who may be uttering nam free from the 10 aparads, but it is no guarantee that they will immediately develop Krishna Prem on uttering one nam. Because finally, it is Bhagavan who takes his sweet time to decide whether a person should be given prema or not. This is the primary difference between the path of Jnana, the path of Ashtanga Yoga, and the path of Bhakti. Because the path of Jnana and Ashtanga Yoga are based on logical progress. In Jnana, you understand the impersonal Brahman. In Ashtanga Yoga, you understand the eightfold process to reach Samadhi. And you can do a lot of that using your intellect. But in Bhakti, it is not simply a matter of intellect. Intellect will only take us so far. Finally, Bhakti is about something which is supra-intellectual. Bhakti is about prema. And prema is beyond logic. Prema is something which is beyond human and divine intelligence. Prema is something which conquers even Bhagavan. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is not exactly dependent upon a fixed mechanical formula. And therefore, simply getting rid of namaprads is not any indication that Bhagavan has given prema. Of course, Bhagavan will give, but after how much time will he give, that remains uncertain. Anyways, the namaprads are still keeping us in the negatives, and therefore we should at least ensure that we drive away those negatives. The fourth namaprad is Shruti Shastra Nindanam. To critique Shruti, Shruti is the direct Vedas, and the Shastras pertaining to Dharma that accept the authority of the Shrutis. Sri Sanatana Goswami explains in the commentary, Shrutinam Dharma Shastranam cha Nindanam, to critique the Shrutis and Dharma Shastras, basically to critique the Vedic literature, whether it is Shruti or Smriti. Shruti is 4 Vedas, and along with the 4 Vedas, there are 6 Veda Angas. There are 6 limbs of the Vedas. We'll discuss about the 6 Vedangas today. Then there are also other literatures which are considered within Shrutis. Vedanta, Upanishad, they are also considered within Shruti. Then there are other literature, Brahman Granthas, then there are Kalpa Granthas, which are also considered under Shrutis. So Shrutis is especially the 4 Vedas, Veda Samhitas, and the literature that explains the Veda Samhitas, and also the Upanishads and Vedanta. And Smriti refers to Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, Dharma Shastras, etc., which were compiled by the sages based on their understanding of the Shrutis. So, Shruti and Smriti Nindanam, to critique the Shruti and Smriti, is one of the 10 Nam Aparads. Often, this criticism is done by those individuals who don't believe in the path of the Vedas. Sometimes we come in contact with such individuals, and then we may become affected by this criticism. Sometimes, even in our own mind, we start doubting the authority of the Vedas. And therefore, it is very important for us to understand what is the specialty of Vedas and why is it that critiquing the Vedas is considered as an aparad by Harinam. Why is it so that critiquing the Vedas has become one of the 10 aparads? Now, Srila Prabhupada, in a particular initiation talk, he specifies a wonderful detail. Prabhu, can you kindly read what Prabhupada says?
Shruti Shastra Nindanam. One should not blaspheme the Shruti, which are the Vedas, and Shastra, the Shastras which follow the Vedas. This is Mahābharata, the Puranas, the Itihasa, the Smriti, Shruti Smriti. These are the 2 eyes. It is said, the Brahmana has 2 eyes. One is Shruti, one is Smriti. So by these Shastras we can understand, because the Shastras are made by God, because they are emanating from God. Therefore they are perfect.
And dear devotees, it is one of the most essential arguments about the authenticity of the Vedas, that the Vedas are literature which emanate directly from Bhagavan. Yet in the minds of many individuals, there are many doubts pertaining to the Vedas, and these doubts often result in direct or indirect criticism of the Vedas. First and foremost, a very important detail is specified here. It is said that the Brahmanas has 2 eyes. One is Shruti, one is Smriti. This Srila Prabhupada is referring to a verse which is quoted by Srila Sridhar Swami in his commentary to the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Here is the verse which Srila Sridhar Swami quotes. This verse is originally from the Atri Samhita, but from the Atri Samhita it has been quoted by Srila Sridhar Swami in his commentary. Shruti Smriti Ubhe Netre विप्राणां परिकीर्तिते एकेन विकलः काणो द्वाभ्याम् अंधः प्रकीर्तितः श्रुति स्मृति ubhe netre. Shruti, Vedas and Smriti are known as the two eyes of whom Vipranam, of the Brahmanas. Ekena vikalah kano. One who has not learnt any one of these two is known as Kana, one-eyed. And Dvabhyam, Andha Prakirtitah. And one who hasn't learned both of these is Andha, completely blind. This is in the commentary to 11.2.35. Surprisingly, the verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam says that one can run with both eyes closed on the path of bhakti. So that is the original verse, and the original verse 11.2.35 says that dhavan nimilya netrapi na skhale na patediha, that even if one runs with both eyes closed, one will never slip or fall on this particular path of bhakti yoga. But what is the meaning of keeping both eyes closed? It means that even if somebody is not learned in Shruti or Smriti, bhakti yoga can still benefit such individuals. But if one is not learned in Shruti and Smriti, Jnana Yoga will not benefit. Because for Jnana Yoga, you need to understand Vedanta, the Upanishads. So you cannot be blind. So Shruti, Smriti are necessary for other paths. But for Bhakti Yoga, it is necessary that the Guru should be aware of the Shruti and Smritis, the Guru should be aware of the Shastras, and a simple instruction from the Guru can easily help the disciple progress even without direct knowledge of the Shruti and Smriti. But what is covered under Vedic knowledge, what consists of Vedic knowledge, is specified in the Vedas itself. And Shri Vyasadeva says, in the Mundak Upanishad it is given, Tatra para Rigvedo Yajurvedah Samavedo Atharvavedah Shiksha Kalpo Vyakaranam Niruktam Chando Jyotishamiti Athaparayaya Tadaksharam Abhigamyate. The Aparavidya means knowledge of this world, knowledge which is pertaining to the three modes of nature. Traigunya Vishaya Veda includes Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. Now these are the four Vedas, and now the six Angas, the six limbs of the Vedas: Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakaran, Nirukta, Chandah, and Jyotish. This is Aparavidya, and Paravidya, which helps you attain the supreme absolute truth, includes Vedanta, Upanishads, etc. It is said, Tad Aksharam Avigamyate, by which one attains the absolute truth. This is the specialty of Vedic literature. In the entire world, if there is any one literature which clearly defines the nature of the absolute truth, then there is only one literature which does that without a trace of doubt, without a trace of speculation. And that is Vedic literature. The absolute truth being defined as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The absolute truth is given clear names. There is no doubt about the names, the characteristics, the forms of the absolute truth. But there is only one literature which brings us in contact with that absolute truth. There is no other literature in the world. Imagine a world without Vedic literature. That world will be full of darkness. It's like living in the animal kingdom, dear devotees. It's like living in the animal kingdom. Survival of the fittest. That is what will work in such a world. But because for the human species of life, it is with great mercy, Bhagavan manifested Vedas. And it is our great benefit if we can have access to the Vedas if we can understand the message of the Vedas. That is the great benefit of Vedic literature. No other literature brings us in direct contact with the absolute truth. And even if there are literature which claim to bring one to the absolute truth, those literatures are riddled with logical inconsistencies or various philosophical problems. Srila Jiva Goswami is going to take up a discussion of all of that. But first and foremost, let us see that the Veda is not simply a book. Veda is a person. Dear devotees, as I said, there are 6 Veda Angas, there are 6 limbs of the Vedas. This is specified in the Paniniya Shiksha, in the Shiksha literature of Acharya Panini. Sri Jiva Goswami calls Acharya Panini as Bhagavan Panini. He is, for Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami calls him Bhagavan. Bhagavan means a personality who has appeared in the world for carrying out the task of Bhagavan. Somebody who has the Shakti Avesh of Bhagavan. And Acharya Panini came in this world for carrying out that task of Bhagavan to teach grammar to those people of Kali Yuga who could not learn the previous systems of grammar. Acharya Panini condensed 1 lakh sutras from the previous ages into 4,000 sutras for the people of Kali Yuga. Therefore, for the people of Kali Yuga, he is nothing short of the appearance of Bhagavan in this particular age. So, Acharya Panini says, Chandaha padau tu vedasya hastau kalpotha pathyate jyotishamayam chakshur niruktam shrotramuchyate. Chandaha, prosody, are the 2 feet of personified Vedas. Dear devotees, the Vedas walks in 4 steps. Did you notice? Veda walks in 4 steps. And these 4 steps are the 4 lines of a verse that you see. This very verse has 4 lines. And in 4 lines, these 4 lines are the 4 steps which the Veda takes. So Chandaha, prosody, are the 2 feet of personified Vedas. Hastau kalpotha pathyate. Kalpa. There are many kalpa literature. Grahiya Sutra, Shulbha Sutra. So those literature teach how to build a fire sacrifice, how to collect wood, which type of wood to collect. So these are all carried out by the hands. Therefore, kalpa literature, procedures and applications of the fire sacrifice are the 2 hands of the Vedas. Jyotisham ayanam chakshur. Jyotish, astronomy, astrology is sheltered in his eyes. It is said, Shashisurya Netre, in the Gita it is said, the sun and the moon are the 2 eyes of Bhagavan. Jyotisham ayanam chakshur. Therefore, the entire science of astronomy or astrology, which is centered around the sun and the moon, is sheltered in the eyes of Ved Purush. And Niruktam Shrotra Muchyate, Nirukta, which tells the etymology of various terms in the Vedas, are his ears, so that he can hear those terms and understand those terms. So this is Chandaha, the hands are Kalpaha, Jyotish is the eyes, Nirukta is the ears. Shiksha Ghranam tu Vedasya Mukham Vyakaranam Smritam Tasmat Sangam Adhityaiva Brahmaloke Mahiyate. Shiksha Ghranam tu Vedasya. Shiksha, phonetics, denotes his nose. Dear devotees, why does Shiksha, phonetics, phonetics teaches the student what part of the mouth is to be used to utter which particular syllable. For example, phonetics teaches the student that the first 5 consonants are to be uttered through the throat. Ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. The next 5 are to be uttered through the lower palate. Cha, cha, ja, cha. This is all in Shiksha. But why is Shiksha compared to the nose? Because the nose is used for breathing in. And it is only after breathing in that one is able to recite something. And therefore, unless one has sufficient breath, one will not be able to speak. Shiksha is compared to the initial breathing in, and mukham vyakaranam, and the mouth is grammar, so that one can speak the words and syllables. Mukham vyakaranam smritam. So vyakaran, grammar, is the mouth by which the Veda speaks. Tasmat sangam adhityaiva, thus understanding the Veda with his 6 limbs. Brahmaloke mahiyate, a human is glorified even on the planet of Shri Brahma. Dear devotees, this is Ved Purush, personified Veda, whose limbs have various contributions in understanding the Veda. Without these limbs, it is impossible to understand the Vedas. And, dear devotees, it is specified in the Vedas itself that one who disregards these Vedas will not be able to attain anything transcendental. They may become very happy in this world. They may attain all riches and wealth in this world, but ultimately nothing of permanent value will be attained by them. In the Rig Veda, it is specified, Yastityaja sachividam sakayam natasya vachyapi bhagosti yadim shrinoti shrinoti nahi praveda sukritasya pantham. Yastityaja sachividam sakayam, one who gives up on the constant friend in the form of Vedas, na tasya vachyapi bhagosti, doesn't attain any success in his speech. Yadim shrinoti alakam shrinoti, whatever he hears is ultimately useless. Nahi praveda sukritasya pantham, since he doesn't know the path of true piety. In the modern world, human beings have unfortunately become affected by this strange disease that we can independently understand the absolute goal of life. We can independently understand by ourselves what human life is meant for, how it should be lived, without taking help of any external authority. By our own intelligence, we will derive the meaning of the human form of life. And by doing so, manorathe nasati dhavato bahi, on the chariots of their minds, they are driving in thousands of directions. So some people say that the best form of life is veganism. Some other people say the best form of life is, let's say, some other people say the best form of life is non-violence. Some other people say the best form of life is patriotism, and they are running in thousands of different directions, and all of them have conflicts with each other. And because there is no central authority to tell them what is the ultimate goal of the human form of life, therefore they are running in thousands of different directions, aimlessly. In one particular, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, one particular point of time, a particular individual came to him and said, why don't you give some of your brahmacharis to act as freedom fighters in the struggle for independence? Because we want to defeat the British and overthrow them. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, you already have many people who are inclined to that. Why do you want a bhakti yogi to do that? Because we want more strength in our side. Therefore, give your bhakti yogis for the independence struggle. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, today you are born in India and you are thinking that the British are your enemy. After this life, in your next life, you may be born in Great Britain and then you will again try to conquer India. How will you finally understand the ultimate goal of life? And dear devotees, that ultimate goal of life is not explained in any literature around the world except for one, and that is Veda. And there are other literature, spiritual literature in the world from other religions, but there are some issues with those particular literature, and we will discuss them. Shri Jiva Goswami, in the Tattva Sandarbha, takes up the entire discussion on Vedas. Sri Jiva Goswami says, Purushasya Brahmadi Dosha Chatushtaya Dushtatvat Sutaram Alaukika Achintya Swabhava Vastu Sparsha Ayogyatvacha Tat Pratyakshadini Api Sadoshani. Purushasya, due to human beings being afflicted by 4 defects, Dosha Chatushtaya Dushtatvat. This is the first reason, that human beings are afflicted by 4 defects. And Sutaram Alaukika Achintya Swabhava Vastu Sparsha Ayogyatvacha. Let's say we are affected by 4 defects, no problem. But if somehow we can come in contact with the absolute truth, it is possible that the absolute truth will remove our 4 defects. So Sri Jiva Goswami says, Alaukika Achintya Swabhava Vastu Sparsha Ayogyatvacha. Due to their inability of experiencing the transcendental, inconceivable natured absolute truth by all their means of knowledge in the world. So these means of knowledge such as pratyaksha, direct perception, are all flawed in the world, and therefore anybody who uses his own senses and mind to determine the absolute truth is actually not following the correct path, because that path is not going to lead him anywhere. It is following pratyaksha and anuman, following direct perception and inference for attaining the absolute truth, is running into an endless maze with no end in sight, dear devotees. That is what is happening here. And therefore, the first step is to understand that human beings and their senses cannot understand the absolute truth by themselves. Dear devotees, this one statement has saved lifetimes of effort. We can't imagine. This one statement saves lifetimes of effort. And this one statement by Sri Jiva Goswami. And therefore, one has to hear from an Acharya who has understood the Vedas in Guru Parampara. Otherwise, it becomes impossible by one's own strength. And Sri Jiva Goswami therefore says that the sole source of all knowledge in the world, and he gives 3 important characteristics. And these 3 characteristics are given in such a broad-minded way. If you hear, then you'll understand the broad-mindedness of Vedic literature. He says, Iti anadi siddha sarva purusha paramparasu sarva laukika alaukika jnana nidanatvat aprakrita vachana lakshano veda eva asmakam sarvatita sarvashraya sarvachintyascharya swabhavam vastu vividishatam pramanam. Thus, because our senses are having so many defects, and because we cannot come directly in contact with the absolute truth, the absolute truth should come in contact with us. But how? That literature which is characterized by transcendental words, that literature which is the original source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge, and that literature which is that source of knowledge in all beginningless varieties of human and godly civilizations. That Veda is the only praman, only means of knowledge for all of us who are inquiring into that absolute truth who supersedes everything. That absolute truth who is the shelter of everything and who contains all inconceivable opulences. If we want to come in contact with the absolute truth, then there is only one way. Veda pramanam. Ved is the only praman. Ved is the only means. There are many other literature in the world. There are literature which will help you deal with suffering. Yoga Shastra in India, Stoicism in the West. They help you deal with suffering. They tell you how to live your life. But it all ends at death. It all ends at death. So, if we want to come in contact with aprakrita vastu, that particular transcendental absolute object, which will give us eternal benefit, then there is only one way of doing that, and that is Ved. Veda Pramanam. Ved is the only Praman in this regard. Dear devotees, Sri Jiva Goswami has specified 3 characteristics in the paragraph I just quoted. The first characteristic is that the Vedas have been present in all human civilizations since beginningless time. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, is that a very believable claim or a very unbelievable claim?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable claim. But we will have a look at it. Second, they are the original source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge. And third, they are the only means of accessing that absolute truth which is beyond all matter. These are the fundamental 3 claims which are being made by Sri Jiva Goswami. Now we have to understand, let's put the claims through the test. First claim, the Vedas have been present in all human civilizations since beginningless time. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says, Avirbhava tiro bhavo syatam asya yuge yuge. Of course, people will question, where are the Vedas in the Western world? Where are the Vedas in the Islamic world today? They are not there to help majority of the humans on the surface of the planet. So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says, Avirbhava tiro bhavo. Just as in successive ages there is appearance and disappearance of various incarnations of Bhagavan, similarly in successive ages there is appearance and disappearance of the Vedas. Let's go back to a few thousand years before the modern religions. And by modern religions, I mean Islam, Christianity, Judaism, before they existed on the surface of the planet. How did the religious atmosphere of planet Earth look like? Let's go to pre-Islamic Arabia. In pre-Islamic Arabia, there were 3 deities worshipped, and these 3 deities are shown right here in front of us. Their names are also shown. And Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, can you notice a few peculiarities about the deities which were worshipped in pre-Islamic Arabia?
There's one for the sun and one for the moon. One looks Egyptian.
Yeah.
They're all female.
Right. One of them is carrying a weapon and also having a vehicle in the form of a tiger, and one of them is carrying grains. These are indications of worship of devatas in pre-Islamic Arabia. You can also see one of the Devis also has a tilak on her forehead. You can see very clearly there. Pre-Islamic Arabia was consisting of worship of many devatas which were destroyed as soon as Islam arrived on the scene. This may not look so convincing. Let's go to Europe. In Europe, till today, there is a deity worshipped. This deity is a Christian deity, and her name is Kali Sara. Kali Sara. And this is the deity of the Romanian people. And these Romanian people were the ones who migrated from Asia to Romania. But when they came to Europe, they brought their favorite deity along with them, who was known as Kali. But then they had to adjust to the majoritarian religion there, which was Christianity. And so they turned their deity into a Christian deity. And this deity today is known as Kali Sara. Even the Romanian people today, even today, worship this deity, and every year they have a celebration of this particular deity where they take that deity and ritually immerse that deity in water, a tradition which is strikingly very similar to the Vedic tradition of immersing deities within water. Now, let's go to pre-Islamic Iran, where Zoroastrianism was existing. And Zoroastrianism has been existing for thousands of years before Islam arrived in Iran. Actually speaking, the original religion of Iran before Islam was Zoroastrianism. And the book Zend Avesta was written in this language, Avestan. And this particular literature has many words which are direct Sanskrit words. For cold, the Sanskrit word is Hiranya, the Avestan word is Saranya. For army, the Sanskrit word is Sena, the Avestan word is Hena. Similarly, Shatra, Shatra, Ashura, Ahura, Yajya, Yasya, Hotara, Shotara, Soma, Homa, Aryaman, Aryaman, Deva. So many of the terms directly in their religious books are taken directly from the Vedas. The Zoroastrians are worshippers of fire, Agni Devata. And therefore, even in the Middle East, pre-Islamic culture consisted of worship of various deities, especially Agni. And Agni is the first deity mentioned in the Rig Veda. Agnimire Purohitam. The Rig Veda begins with the term Agnim. And in this way, if we trace back a few thousand years, in most corners of the world, we will find definite traces of direct Vedic culture or some interpretation of Vedic culture present. Here is the numbers, the name of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in Sanskrit and Persian, Greek, English, German, Spanish, Latin, Italian, and Czech. And these are pertaining to the different civilizations. And we can see how those particular number systems from the Vedas have, even the names of the numbers given in the Vedas have influenced the various languages. What to speak of this? In Christian culture, even today, the term for a Christian priest is father. You might be knowing this, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu. A priest is often known as father. Yes, Prabhu?
Yes.
And the term father has come from the Latin term padre. And the Latin term padre has come from a Sanskrit term pitre. And the term pitre also in Sanskrit, what does pitre mean in Sanskrit? Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu.
Father.
Father. And so the English term mother. And the English term mother has come from the Latin term madre. And the Latin term madre is ultimately derived from the Sanskrit term matre. And what does matre mean, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu?
Mother.
It is very easy to understand for somebody who has, somebody who sees it from an impartial point of view, that Vedic culture is the original culture of the entire world. In recent few thousands of years, some other forms of religion might have shrouded the Vedas. But originally, it is Vedic culture, which is the original culture present in all human civilizations around the world. Dear devotees, no matter which country you are born in, no matter which civilization you are born in, each and every one of you are looked upon equally by the Vedas. And therefore, the Vedas judge each and every human being on the common ground of karma. Every human being is judged on the common ground of karma. They are not classified into believers and disbelievers. Even if somebody disbelieves in the Vedas, they will still be judged according to karma. And this karma siddhanta is the most neutral siddhanta in the entirety of existence. And this karma siddhanta was given only by one particular literature. Which literature, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu?
The Vedas.
Vedas. Shruti, Smriti. And so this is a just and rational system which has been given by Bhagavan. It is the original system in the original language, Sanskrit, from which various other languages have derived their particular terms. And after many years of separation from the Vedas, many parts of the world have become disconnected from the Vedas. In the Manusmriti, there is a term used called Kriyalop. Kriyalop means when 7 generations of a family are disconnected from the Vedas, they are officially disconnected from the Vedas. When 7 generations are disconnected from the Vedas, there is Kriyalop. There is complete disappearance of Veda from that particular family. And therefore, Shanaka is tu Kriyalopat, gradually due to generational disconnection from the Vedas. In many parts of the world, there are individuals who do not now associate themselves with Vedic culture. But originally, the original culture of each and every personality, each and every human civilization around the world is Vedic culture. And this culture, in some or the other form, was prevalent in all parts of the world. The Mahabharata, the Ramayana are speaking the truth when they say that the entire world knew something about the Vedas. They may not have followed the Vedas exactly in the way the Aryans in India followed it, but some variation of Vedic culture was followed by all human civilizations. And therefore, it is very important to understand the all pervasiveness of Vedas in the human civilization. Srila Prabhupada also specifies about literature that have come up recently in other forms of religion. Srila Prabhupada says something. Prabhu, kindly read what Srila Prabhupada says.
The Shastras of the Yavanas or meat eaters are not eternal scriptures. They have been fashioned recently, and sometimes they contradict one another. The scriptures of the Yavanas are 3, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. Their compilation has a history. They are not eternal like the Vedic knowledge. Therefore, although they have their arguments and reasonings, they are not very sound and transcendental. As such, modern people advanced in science and philosophy deem these scriptures unacceptable.
So Srila Prabhupada very clearly says in his purport to Chaitanya Charitamritam that there are scriptures in other forms of religion which have been fashioned recently. And because they have been fashioned recently, therefore they have been fashioned according to human intelligence, and many a times they contradict each other. And because these literature contradict each other, therefore you will see that the literature of one particular Abrahamic religion will say that followers of other Abrahamic religions will go to hell. And the literature of the other Abrahamic religion will say that the followers of another Abrahamic religion will go to hell. And therefore, they are full of mutual contradictions. The Christians believe that they believe that Jesus is the only way, the Son of God. Whereas the Jews, they say that Jesus was just one of the various prophets who was preaching at that particular point of time. And the Muslims say that Jesus is one of the prophets, but the final one is Muhammad. And therefore, anybody who does not follow our respective prophet will end up in eternal hell. And that is what Srila Prabhupada says. There are many contradictions with each other. And these contradictions today have become the source of many of the modern day wars and a lot of discontent in the modern world today. In fact, most of the modern day wars are somewhere or other rooted in religious intolerance. And this is because these literature have been fashioned recently. And Srila Jiva Goswami had said, anything which is fashioned by human intelligence will have 4 defects. And one of these 4 defects are seen in those particular literature, and therefore it does not give that particular absolute truth which the Vedas are promising. It's very important to understand that there are many other literature, even in India. There are many literature which were there. Buddhism took birth here in India. Buddhism appeared in India. And the Buddhist literature are non-eternal literature. and they are based on critiquing Vedic literature. But because of being disconnected from Vedic literature, Buddhism split into thousands of different schools and sub-schools. Today, it is almost non-existent in India. And even in other parts of the world where it is existent, it has drastically turned away from the original teachings. So, dear devotees, it's very important to understand that the moment we lose touch with the original source of knowledge, that is Vedas, from that point of time, our connection with the absolute truth also gradually cuts down. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is also saying. All right. Another claim Sri Jiva Goswami made was that the Vedas are source of all knowledge. Knowledge arises from language, and language arises from various important concepts. A very simple concept like zero. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, without zero, without the concept of zero, where would we be today? Can we even have this Zoom call without having the concept of zero? Please tell me.
I could only guess.
Computers,
I couldn't
computers,
back up any answer to give.
computers today are
Zero and one. Okay.
zeros and ones. And at the root of zeros and ones is zero.
Right.
But zero as the original entity, the first literature to mention zero as the original entity is the Rig Veda. Ma shune bhuma shuna, may we never face emptiness. Chandogya Brahman says, Ashunyopastha, a non-empty lady, a lady who has given birth to a child. The first mention of Shunya is found in Vedic culture. And Vedic culture gave us the concept of Shunya, from which the Buddhists made Shunyavad. The entire concept of Shunyavad requires Shunya. And the Shunya was found in the Vedas. And therefore, the original credit of Shunyavad should go to the concept of Shunya, which was given by Bhagavan in the Vedas. The Vedas also give very interesting things. Saptarashmihi, the sun has 7 types of rays. Dāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, how many colors can a beam of sun be split into?
7.
7. It's mentioned right there in the Veda. Saptarashmihi Rig Veda. The sun has 7 types of rays. In another way, the Veda explains the sun has 7 horses bound by 7 strings. So it refers to the 7 types of rays, which we today known as violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Saptarashmihi, the sun has 7 types of rays. Without any prism experiments, it has been determined that the sun has 7 types of rays. And this knowledge has been given in the Vedas. Sri Jiva Goswami says it is the source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge. It is the source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge. What other worldly knowledge did the Vedas give us? First and foremost, the original mention of the concept of Shakti is found in the Vedas. Much before any other religious system, the term Shakti as denoting a concept of energy is to be found in the Vedas. The concept of gravitation, Adhar Shakti, is also to be found in the Vedas. In the Vedas, it is not explained like how the modern scientists explain it. Of course, the modern scientists developed it a lot. There is no doubt about it. But the original source of that knowledge comes from one particular literature. In the Vedas, in Patanjali's Mahabhashya, it is explained that anything which is made out of the earth element gets attracted to the earth element. That is how he explains it. So anything which is made out of earth gets attracted to earth. So any object which is made out of earth will fall down towards the earth. And then Patanjali says, because fire element is not made out of earth, therefore fire always travels upwards. And anything which is made out of earth travels downwards. It's very important to understand that this Adhar Shakti, the concept, the original concept of gravitation, was mentioned in the Vedas. What else did the Vedas give us in this world? The Vedas gave us the lunar calendar cycle and prediction of eclipses. Surya Siddhant, much before there was modern day calendar. The Vedic culture told us which particular day an eclipse is going to arise. Solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, where a particular planet is placed, where the particular planets are placed at the birth of an individual, and how do planets affect an individual. The original concept of Jyotish, astrology and astronomy, which went from the Vedas to various parts of the world, especially it was developed to a great extent in Greece. It was developed to such an extent in Greece that even the Vedic Acharya started saying that the Greeks are very expert in astrology and astronomy. And a lot of that came back to India from Greece. And today we have a literature in Sanskrit. It is called Brihad Yavan Jatakam, the astrology of the Yavanas. It is a Sanskrit translation of the concepts of the Greeks. But the original source of astronomy, calculation of lunar cycles, solar cycles, prediction of eclipses, is given in Surya Siddhant and previous Vedic literature. And in Surya Siddhant, the author Bhaskaracharya says, I received this knowledge directly from Bhagavan Surya. And therefore, I am naming the literature after him, Surya Siddhant, the conclusions given by Bhagavan Surya. The original systematic arrangement of medicines and herbs that do not give any side effects is also to be found in the Vedas. It is the first system and it is the only system to categorize bodily defects into three: kapha, vata, and pitta, which till today are not accepted by modern medicine. Kapha, vata, and pitta, which although are true, but due to being subtle elements, are not accepted by modern day medicine. Ayurvedic medicine is designed in such a way that it does not give any side effects. The original source of that is Veda. Ayurveda. What else did the Veda give us? Many descriptions of characters, architecture, meteorology, ecology, etc. Many of them are mentioned directly in the Vedas. Original sources of worldly knowledge. Original sources of worldly knowledge. Dear devotees. And therefore, not only worldly knowledge, dear devotees, the Vedas are also source of transcendental knowledge. The concepts of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are to be found in this particular literature. The concept of karma, that a person pays for previous good or bad karma committed in previous human lives, is to be found in the Vedas. The concept of Gyan, attainment of the impersonal Brahman, is to be found in the Vedas. The concept of Ashtanga Yoga is to be found. Pranayam, regulation of breath, is to be found in the Vedas. Today, they have renamed pranayam in the modern world. They are trying to rename pranayam and call it breathing patterns or something like that. But the original term for that is pranayam, and it is given in the Ashtanga Yoga system, which is mentioned directly in the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Vedic literature. The original concept of dharma, all-round benefit for all human beings, all entities. Artha, financial progress. Kama, fulfillment of desires. And moksha, especially moksha, the original concept of moksha, is mentioned in the Vedas. There is no other literature in the world which gives concept of moksha. Dear devotees, this moksha is to be freed from all karma, is to be freed from the repeated cycle of birth and death. Moksha is different from attaining heaven. Moksha is to be freed from all material contamination. That is moksha. The concept of jeev, soul, that you are not simply, a set of material experiences. You are the soul. This original concept is also given to us by Vedas. Beyond that, the concept of bhakti, that you can have a relationship with Bhagavan and you can render service to Bhagavan, is also given by the Vedas. The concept of ras, cathartic experience of joy, is also given to us by the Vedas. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, is there any other system of religion in the world which teaches about rasa?
Definitely not.
Not. But the Upanishad say, Taittiriya Upanishad says, Raso vai saha rasam hi evayam labdhva anandi bhavati. That personality, that absolute truth is rasa. And only on attaining rasa does a living entity become happy. Directly mentioned in the Vedas. The Vedas give the concept of japa, the soft chanting of Nam, for attaining that absolute truth. And the Vedas give the concept of prema, the result of uttering Bhagavan's Nam, love of Bhagavan. All these concepts are given to us by one particular literature. So therefore I say something there, because sometimes what happens, often many individuals, devotees included, when they see literature in the modern world by modern day authors, often they get enamored by those particular literature and they say, wow, this is something which, which is really something which I could not get from the Vedas. Dear devotees, it's very important to understand, before contradicting or challenging the Vedas, we need to have a system which can give as many concepts that the Veda can give. On top of that, we also need to have the universality and beginninglessness of the Vedas, which is not present in any other literature. It is not present in any other literature. And therefore, there is no literature on the surface of the planet which can come in, which can have any comparison to the four Vedas. No doubt, there are many literatures which are very beneficial in certain points of view. But all-round benefit, complete benefit for all human beings at all points of time, in all civilizations, without bias, is done only by one particular set of literature, and that is the Vedas. There are some literature, I'll give examples of some literature. In China, there was Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War, and this literature is considered as one of the top intellectual achievements of Chinese culture. But this literature is specifically used nowadays to benefit oneself and harm the enemy. That is how this particular literature is used nowadays. And therefore, there may be many literature, but all-round benefit for all living entities with a holistic point of view, that is only possible within the Vedas. Swasti astu vishwasya kalaha prasidatam. Even the ruffians become pacified, says the Srimad Bhagavatam. Have you seen that verse, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu? Swasti astu vishwasya kalaha prasidatam.
Swastirastu vishvasya kala prasidatam Jayantu bhutani shivam mitodhya Manasya bhadram bhajataratokshaje Aveshatam no matirapyaituki.
Yes, wonderful, Prabhu. So, can you please read the translation of the verse? It is in front of you.
May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Shri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in the thought of Him.
So let everyone be pacified. Even the envious one should be pacified. And let everybody think of each other's welfare. It's not like the art of war, where you think of your own welfare and the defeat of your enemy. Think of everyone's welfare. That is possible only in one set of literature, and that is Vedic literature. And therefore, These three characteristics that the Vedas have been present in all human civilizations since beginningless time. Sometimes they appear, sometimes they disappear. After a few years, you will see again reappearance of Vedic culture in many parts of the world. Didn't Srila Prabhupada do the same? He made Vedic culture reappear. Not only Srila Prabhupada, many other individuals who brought Vedic culture to the West. You will see a reappearance of Vedas in many civilizations once again. And the Vedas are the original source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge. No doubt, the modern scientists have greatly improved upon the original concepts that are given in the Vedas. And that is what? That is the function of the Smriti. The function of the Smriti is to develop upon what has been given by Bhagavan in the Shruti. No doubt about it. But originally, the entire concepts, the languages are derived from Vedic literature. And they are the only means of accessing absolute truth. Many concepts of the absolute truth which the scientists can never give. Karma, Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagavan, Jiva, concepts that are unapproachable for any modern day scientist are given right there in the Vedas. These three claims by Sri Jiva Goswami stand the test of scrutiny. And therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami has said, Veda Pramanam. If we want to accept the absolute truth, want to understand the absolute truth, there is only one way of understanding it. And that is the way of the Vedas. And for this reason, dear devotees, it has been specified in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Veda pranihito dharmo yadharmastad viparyayah Vedo Narayana Sakshat Swayambhuriti Shushruma. The Yamaduta said, that which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma, actual religious principles. And the opposite of that is adharma, irreligion. What is the Vedas? The Vedas are directly Bhagavan Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Swayambhu, they are self-born. Iti Shushruma. We cannot experience with our senses. We have heard in Guru Parampara from Yamraj that the Vedas are directly Bhagavan Narayan. And Shruti Shastra Nindanam, critiquing the Vedas, is criticism directly of Bhagavan Narayan. Dear devotees, Vedo Narayana Sakshat. Ved is directly Bhagavan Narayan. And criticism of Ved is criticism of Bhagavan. And if we criticize Bhagavan in the form of Veda, should we expect any rati, any attachment to Bhagavan's Naam? Dear devotees, the answer is a clear no. Therefore, we should all make it a point that we should follow the teachings of the previous acharyas regarding the Vedas as it is. Sri Jiva Goswami has given very nicely the position of the Vedas for us. And therefore, it is important for us to follow his line of thought. Otherwise, we will fall into the manoratha, the chariot of the mind, which will drive us in thousands of directions. And this will bring tremendous suffering in the ultimate run. Therefore, dear devotees, please take it very seriously. Shruti and Shastra are the original, Shruti and Smriti are the two eyes of the Brahmanas. Keep these two eyes with you, and you will be able to see Bhagavan directly through the eyes of Shruti and Smriti. Dear devotees, never critique Shruti and Smriti, because criticism of Shruti and Smriti hurts Bhagavan directly. Sometimes devotees, jokingly they say, what is the use of studying astronomy, astrology? What is the use of studying grammar? What is the use of studying... Dear devotees, please be very careful. Are we critiquing one of the limbs of Bhagavan? So it is very important to put a proper context. If bhakti is not present, then there is no use of studying grammar. You can say that. If bhakti is not present, then there is no use of studying astrology or astronomy. That is good. But critiquing any limbs of the Vedas or critiquing the Vedas directly hurts Bhagavan, and we should be very careful of that. So with that, the devotees, I'll pause my speech. Thank you very much. Yadatra skalitam kinchid vidvam saha purayantu tad. Yadatra saushthavam kinchid tad guru reva me nahi. Yadatra skalitam kinchid. If there's any mistake in what I said, vidvam saha purayantu tad. You are learned devotees, please correct any mistakes. But yadatra saushthavam kinchit. If there's anything nice, please remember tad guru reva. It came from my Guru Janas, may nahi. It didn't come from me. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bol! Thank you so much, Hari Parshad Prabhu, for a wonderful class. It's always so nice to be reminded of everything we have to be grateful for. And we have so much depth to the rishis and to Bhagavan for giving us the Vedas and all the knowledge of the Vedas. And we can honor them by studying those scriptures carefully.
Yes, it often happens. Yeah, it often happens that sometimes we, after becoming devotees, we forget our life when we were non-devotees. And we forget the times when we did not know that we are an Atma, we are Jiva. We forget the suffering that we endured during those times. We forget the ignorance that we were experiencing when we did not know that we are Jivatma and that there is Bhagavan and that Bhagavan can be attained by bhakti. And often this forgetfulness, in this forgetfulness, sometimes we may critique the Vedas, the very literature which gave us this entire lifestyle. So, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to questions and answers. We have a few requests for you before we start. But actually, first of all, if you're listening online and you want to join our live classes, please just send an email to this email address on the screen and include your WhatsApp number and country code. We will add you to our WhatsApp group where you'll get the link to join our live classes. So for our questions and answers, we have some humble requests. Please only ask questions related to today's class. Ask one question at a time. If you'd like to ask a follow-up question, that is to clarify the answer you got to your original question and not to ask about further matters. If you'd like to ask a second question, please get back in line so that everyone has a chance to ask a question. 3, if your question requires a lot of research, if it's very, very specific, then it might be better for the WhatsApp group. And last but not least, please don't ask any loaded questions which aim to hold specific institutions or people accountable. We're not trying to call anyone out or do anything like that in these classes. This whole series is not associated with any institution. It's just an informal study group for the Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. Anything else, Prabhuji?
No, it's an informal series of talks. So let's keep the mood informal. That's all.
Keep the mood informal. So, oh my gosh, I don't think. Oh, there we go. There's usually a million hands up. Okay. Our first question is from Bhakti Pravina Mataji.
My pranams. It's wonderful also to see the connection to the Upadishamritam session about also the same topic. It was, I also remember very vividly one quote by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that it doesn't make sense that, like he was speaking about the theology of the Bible, that it doesn't make sense that God punishes himself and before that creates a tree and makes Adam and Eve sin, and then because of that everybody is a sinner and goes to hell. So yeah, I'm just very happy because I have this background and I'm just so grateful to be here. So and we hope that Haripasha Prabhu, that your sprained shoulder can soon move comfortably and practically again. So my question is, there was a mention about that we better not think that even as devotees, sometimes we see books that are very interesting, even maybe at we are studying something in school or so, and we see some knowledge and we think we may start doubting that, I didn't hear about that in the Vedas, but it seems so great. And so I was wondering, because the Vedas are so vast, is it possible that maybe everything is actually included in the Vedas, but it may be possible that we just don't know about it?
Right. That's a query? Yeah. So
Yes.
you started with Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Yeah, in the Upadeshamritam series, we had covered Srila Bhakti Vinod
Yes.
Thakur's verse, which was from Tattva Viveka. Here is the verse in front of us, where Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur, his disappearance was yesterday, I think. And he says, Adi Jiva Paradhat Vai Sarvesham Bandhanam Dhruvam Tathanya Jiva Bhutasya Vibhor Dandena Nishkriti. Some philosophers say that because of the first living entity sin, all the other living entities are imprisoned in the material world. Later, punishing himself for their sins, God delivers the living entities. So then he himself writes a commentary on that, where he says, thinking about the virtues and faults of this world, some moralist monotheists concluded that this material world is not a place of unalloyed pleasures. Indeed, the sufferings outweigh the pleasures. They decided that the material world is a prison to punish the living entities. If there is punishment, then there must be a crime. If there were no crime, why would there be any punishment? What crime did the living entities commit? Unable to properly answer this question, some men of small intelligence gave birth to a very wild idea. He says, very wild idea. And the wild idea is as follows. God created the first man and placed him in a pleasant garden with his wife. Then God forbade the man to taste the fruit of the tree of knowledge. God forbade the man to taste the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Following the evil counsel of a wicked being, which is denoted as a snake, the first man and woman tasted the fruit of the tree of knowledge, thus disobeying God's command. In this way, they fell from that garden into the material world filled with sufferings. Because of their offense, all other living entities are offenders from the moment of their birth. Because all other living entities came from Adam and Eve. So the offense of Adam and Eve was carried into all other living entities. So they are also offenders by birth. Not seeing any other way to remove this offense, God himself took birth in a human-like form, took on his own shoulders the sin of his followers, and then died. All those who follow him easily attain liberation, and all those who do not follow him fall into an eternal hell. So where he's saying is basically Jesus Christ is he's the not only the Son of God but the personification of God, and then he took all the sins of the living entities on his shoulders and then died. So those who follow him can go to heaven, and those who don't follow him fall into eternal hell. In this way, God assumes a human-like form, punishes himself, and thus liberates the living entities. And then finally, he says an intelligent person cannot make any sense of this. So that is what was covered in the Upadeshamritam sessions. And purely based on logic, there's no making sense of this, because there is no logic in all living entities suffering due to a mistake committed by one particular living entity. So there's no logic in that. And secondly, if that logic works, then accordingly, when Adam and Eve went to heaven, then all other living entities should also have gone to heaven. Because if it works for sin, it should also work for piety. So since Adam and Eve went to heaven, logically, all living entities who are born from Adam and Eve should also go to heaven. So then that is how it should work. But it doesn't work both ways. It only works for sin and doesn't work for piety. So any intelligent person cannot make any sense of this. So this is what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. And frankly speaking, when Christianity came first to India, the Pandits were a little bit taken back by surprise that such a form of religion exists. That, and then there were back and forth arguments with the Pandits. And I have a book where a Pandit's arguments against Christianity are compiled. And it perhaps is the first intellectual Indian response to Christianity. Because in India, you can have your system of religion, but it should stand the test of Nyaya Shastra. And Nyaya Shastra is that ultimate test. And that is what the Shastra which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also very learned in. Nyaya Shastra is the litmus test of, or all sorts of logic. And naturally, they did not find it very logical. That's correct. So you were speaking about, your question was about when you read something in the world outside, which you think, oh, I did not see this in the Vedas. Of course, it appears that I did not see this in the Vedas because the reason for that is Veda is Kalpataru. Kalpataru, it's a desire tree. A desire tree contains everything, but does not necessarily manifest everything for everyone. That is the function of a desire tree. Different people approach the Vedas for different purposes and they get their purposes solved. Now, some people build upon knowledge, previous knowledge, and derive new knowledge. So, of course, the new knowledge that you are seeing is derived from previous knowledge. Logically, this is what is happening. New knowledge is derived from previous knowledge. They are not making any new independent branch of knowledge. All the knowledge, new knowledge that you see in this world is derived from previous knowledge. And previous knowledge is somehow or other directly or indirectly connected to the source of all knowledge, which is Vedic literature. And therefore, the statement in the Mahabharata, Yadi hasti tadanyatra yanne hasti na tat kvachit. There is a very nice statement about the Mahabharata. Dharme cha arthe cha kame cha mokshe cha bharatarshava yadi hasti tadanyatra yanne hasti na tat kvachit. I will show this particular statement. And this is from Mahabharata. I'll share my screen so that we all can see. Just searched on Google and this is here. Here it is. Dharme charthe cha kame cha mokshe cha bharatarshava yadi hasti tadanyatra yanne hasti na tat kvachit. So, O king, in matters pertaining to dharma, artha, kam and moksha, whatever has been said here may be found elsewhere, but whatever is not found here does not exist anywhere else. So that is what is specified about the Mahabharata. So whatever you find elsewhere is basically a modification of whatever is already given in as principles in the Vedas. So therefore, it's very important to understand that the broader principles in Vedas are somewhere refined by somebody and presented in a different form. There was one particular book, uh, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it was reported that many of the concepts of these books were taken from the Bhagavad Gita, but the credit was removed. So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and you read the Bhagavad Gita and you understand what is a sthita pragya that Bhagavan mentions. Once you become a sthita pragya, that's the only habit you need, because one who is a sthita pragya, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is a person who has mastered human form of life. So many people take certain aspects from the Vedas. They take little fruits from the Vedas for their little particular purposes, and they remove the connection from the Vedas. So those things may help people temporarily, and then you may feel that, oh, this is something I did not find directly in the Vedas. But it is not like that. Yeah. So
Okay,
this is
thank you
what
so
I like to
much.
say.
Very
Thank
helpful.
you.
Dankeschön.
Next we have Paramakaruna Prabhu.
Am I audible, Prabhu? I'm in a car.
Yeah, you are visible also. Yeah.
Yes, I turned on my camera as well. Okay, great. my question is that you mentioned in the beginning, and I may have missed it, Prabhuji. So please forgive me if I missed noting it in your presentation. But you mentioned earlier about the presence of the Vedas in from beginningless time.
Yeah.
You mentioned aspect of the Vedas being there for thousands of years and how various cultures have adapted from it. Could you please share a little bit more on the aspect of beginningless time? I probably missed it if you mentioned it already.
Dhāmeśvara
Or
Mahāprabhu,
that
did you understand the query? I think it broke off in between.
Can you try again, Prabhu?
Param
yeah,
Karuna
I'll try
Prabhu.
again.
Yeah.
Yes. What I am asking is that, is my audio clear? Otherwise, I can ask on the text or later on, Prabhuji, if the audio is choppy.
Let's try once. Please ask one more time.
Okay. In the beginning, you mentioned names made by Sri Jiva Goswami, and one of them being that the Vedas are present from beginningless time. You very nicely mentioned the aspect of how the Vedas were there from thousands of years, predating all the other cultures. So I get that. Is there anything more that you could share, Prabhuji, on things or aspects or pramana or anything about even before that? Beginningless time, and it may be hard, I get it, because our history and our whole documented system of pramanas begins only a few thousand years ago, and you already covered that. And then the rest of it, I can understand probably comes from the Vedas itself, that the Vedas say that it predates or it's from beginningless time. Other than that, the Vedas providing praman for itself. Is there anything that we can say or you could share? Any logical argument or any analytical statement?
Sure.
Is the question clear?
Yeah, and I understand the query. You see, pramanas, there are only three main pramanas. First is pratyaksh pramana. Pratyaksh is direct perception. In direct perception, you can't go back in history and see what was there thousands or 10,000 years ago. Next is Shabda Praman. You accept the testimony of the Vedas, and the Vedas and the Acharyas say that Vedic culture was present throughout the world. But if that is also ruled out, then the only remaining Praman is Anuman Praman. And Anuman Praman is inference. And that is what most of the archaeologists or most of the researchers, they are depending on, Anuman Praman. Now, based on Anuman Praman, let's just take language. Now, language, if we see how languages are moving, the languages are becoming, they are losing their grammatical principles as the day passes, as the time passes. For example, English during Shakespeare's time had so many rich and brilliant features. English also had meters, pentameter, and so on and so forth in Shakespeare's time. Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, have you heard about the meters used in Shakespeare's poetry?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually like a five syllable meter, right?
Yeah, iambic pentameter or something like that, I have been told. Now, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, compare that English to today's English. Has the language become more refined or has it become more crude?
More crude, for
More
sure.
crude. So that is, but if Vedic culture was a product of human intelligence, then the refinement of language that is seen in Vedic culture should not have been seen like that. Because usually languages become crude over a period of time. But in Vedic culture, due to Sanskrit grammar, due to the rules of Sanskrit grammar being preserved, the formation of words that was there thousands or millions of years ago is still today the same, exactly the same. You can form the same words and derive the exact meaning that a person sitting thousands or millions of years ago could do. Which means that, technically speaking, the semantics, the syntax of the language has not changed. And this argument solely on the basis of complexity of language. The argument that I am giving is argument of complexity of language, is something which shows that Vedic culture is not born from human effort, because it is impossible to produce such a language as Sanskrit using human effort. It is impossible to produce such a language. All the languages, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu, all the languages that we have produced in the world, are they produced in a mathematical way, or are languages produced by common discussion? How are languages produced?
Common discussion.
Common discussion. People frame words, those words become common knowledge, and then people make dictionaries, a few basic rules of grammar. That's how a language comes into existence. But to have an entire mathematics around a language, Panini's grammar, this is not product of human intelligence. Or it's not that somebody was thinking 10,000 years ago, I want to fool everybody in the future, so I will create a system of grammar and the Vedas and Ayurveda and Shiksha and Jyotish and Kalpa, and I will put all of them together in such a way. It is not possible in a humane manner. It is not possible. What to speak of Vedas? Even Mahabharata, it is said in the Vishnu Puran, Krishna Dvaipayanam Vyasam Vidhi Narayanam Prabhum Kohyanyo Bhuvi Maitraya Mahabharata Krit Bhavet. There may be many other Vyasas, but this Vyas is certainly Krishna. He is Narayan. Because who else can become the compiler of a literature like Mahabharata? Who else can compile Mahabharata? Mahabharata is not just the story Mahabharata. Mahabharata is the immensely valuable instructions that are given inside it. So, Vedic culture, simply on the language argument, it can be said that Vedic culture is a culture which is not a product of human effort. It has been, it is, you can say, the existing proof of divine intervention in the world. That is what you can say. It is the existing proof of divine intervention. Ayurveda is the existing proof of divine intervention in the world. Ashtanga Yoga, Patanjali, Muni Patanjali, who revived Ashtanga Yoga. Previous to him also there were many Ashtanga Yogis. Patanjali Muni revived Ashtanga Yoga. And even after the disappearance of Patanjali Muni, 2500 years later, Patanjali Muni's Ashtanga Yoga took over the world. Even though Patanjali Muni is not present physically. Today, in each and every nook and corner of the world, you can find something or the else connected to Ashtanga Yoga, some yoga studio around the world. And if you see a yoga studio, you know whom to thank. That is Patanjali Muni, who even 2500 years after his disappearance made sure that Vedic knowledge is spread around the world and people are actually benefited. So, simply on the basis of the language argument, it can be said that the Vedas are, the language of the Vedas is such that it is not a product of human intelligence developed over a period of time. And if it is not a product of human intelligence developed over a period of time, it has come from another source. And that very source is known as Anadi, beginningless. And that source is mentioned in the Vedas as Anadi Siddha. So that is the only argument as of now. There are many other arguments that can be given. Archaeological arguments can also be given. There are many places around the world, especially I did not mention Russia, which is Slavic culture. Slavic culture and language has so many similarities with Sanskrit. So Slavic culture has similarities with Sanskrit. Zoroastrian culture has similarities with Sanskrit. Eastern European culture has similarities with Sanskrit. Romanian people have similarity with Sanskrit. So many cultures are having similarity with only one language. What does that indicate? So that indicates something. And it indicates that the root of all of them is in the Vedas. And that we should acknowledge. Any person who, if we believe in Anuman Praman, because these are the only three Pramanas available to us: Pratyaksha, Shabda, and Anuman. And there are no other Pramanas available to us. So if we are casting out Pratyaksha and Shabda, the only Praman remaining is Anuman Praman. And Anuman Praman can only take us so far. That is what can be said in this regard. Right? Thank you.
Next we have Bhagavat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhammas Pranam. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful session. I have 2-3 questions. So the first one is...
One question. You can
yes,
come back.
One question.
One question.
In your previous sessions, when you were discussing the first verse of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam, you said that avidya can only be removed after achieving prema, and we commit offenses due to avidya. So in the starting of this session, you said that even after chanting offenseless name, it is not sure that we can get prema. So is it actually possible to be chant offenseless name without having achieved the prema?
Yes, there is a stage in between where you utter the name offenselessly, but prema has not yet arisen. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaks about this in his Madhurya Kadambini. And in the Madhurya Kadambini, let me pull out that particular section where he says that although a tree, everything may be right with a tree, but it will give fruits only at a particular point of time. So, similarly, a person may not be having aparadh, but still the result of prema will come only at a particular point of time. Yes, here it is. I am sharing my screen so that we all can have a look. In the Madhurya Kadambini, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, yes, here. Tasmat phalan api vrikshah prayashah kale eva phalati itivat niraparadheshu prasidat api nama swaprasadam kale eva prakashayet. Here is the statement by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Tasmat, therefore, phalan api vrikshah, although a tree is growing properly, prayashah kale eva phalati, but still the final fruit takes some time. Although a tree may not have diseases, but the final fruits take some time. Itivat, still, in this way, nir aparadheshu prasidat api nama. Even though a person may be nir aparadhi, may not be having aparadhas, and prasidat api nama, and nam may be happy with that person, but swa prasadam kale eva prakashet, but it will give its result only after due course of time, not immediately. So that is what I was mentioning. His previous acharyas have mentioned this clearly. I was mentioning on the basis of the previous acharyas only. Because I have read this in Madhurya Kadambini. See, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that not because you are niraprada immediately you get. It will take some time. That is what the acharyas have said. All right. Otherwise, it will become a formula. Remove the aparadhas and immediately Nam is forced to give you prema. And bhakti doesn't work according to a formula. That is what I said today. Bhakti and Gyan, there's a big difference. Gyan may work according to a formula to a major extent, but bhakti doesn't work according to a formula to a major extent. So that is what it is. All right.
Prabhuji, just a small follow-up on this. So, offenses can be, the main offense is Vaishnava aparadh. The last offense that goes away is the Vaishnava aparadh. So that can
There
also be.
is no scriptural proof that the last offense is Vaishnava Aparadh. I don't know from where you got this idea.
I mean, okay.
There are many hearsays in the society of devotees. So I don't know where this hearsay came from. That the last aparadh to be removed. Some people say the last aparadh to be removed is envy. Envy is not an aparadh. In the 10 aparadh, it's not an aparadh. So how can it be the last one to be? So there some things are said in the society of devotees and they have no scriptural reference. So, in Hindi, we say कहने सुनने की बातें. Somebody said, somebody heard, Chinese whispers. That is what we say, isn't it? So like that. So let's base our queries on Shastra. Okay, let's move to the next query.
Next we have Vaibhav Prabhu. Vaibhav, there we go.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So I have a question regarding the different sampradayas within India itself, right? And I have a main question regarding the Varkari Sampradaya, because I know you share the similar background which I share. So I want to understand deeply how the Varkari Sampradaya is different or indifferent from the ISKCON.
Sorry, Prabhuji, one of our rules is not to bring up specific people or institutions, so it's up to...
No, it's not about specific people or institution. It
All right.
is
There's
a lot of similarity, the same things are being so I
Right.
want to see it is what is a
I can understand. At the same time, it's also that the query should have some connection to the topic for today.
okay.
But I'll still give a brief answer. I don't want to disappoint you. I'll still give a very brief answer. There are many commonalities between the Varkari Sampradaya of Maharashtra and the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, which started in Bengal with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarities are in Kirtan. Similarities are in the process of bhakti being the main process. Differences are there. Differences are because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very clear that we should not have any influence of this Brahmavad within the Sampradaya, whereas this highlight was not so much in Maharashtra. So therefore, in the Maharashtrian Sampradayas of Bhakti, there is still quite a significant impression of Brahmavad. And that is natural because the influence that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had on the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya was different. And that impression was not there in Maharashtra. So the Sampradayas have some differences of approach. And some Brahmavad definitely exists within the Maharashtrian Sampradayas. And Sri Jiv Goswami speaks about it in Bhagavad Sandarbha, where he says about Shri Vopadev. Vopadev is a very celebrated Maharashtrian commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's so celebrated that people started saying Vopadev wrote the Bhagavatam. So it is such a celebrated commentator. And he says Vopadev is very respectable. At the same time, he has some ideas of Brahmavad. So Sri Jiva Goswami very respectfully takes his name. But there is some influence of Brahmavad. So that is the differences in approach to philosophy. That's all. But more details can be discussed, but maybe not in this particular session because it's not connected to the main topic for today. So I hope that satisfies your query.
Next we have Nritya Gauranga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavats Pranam.
Pranam.
Thank you once again, as usual, for the wonderful class.
Yeah.
So Prabhu, as we see this Kali Yuga is being degrading, and we have seen that the beginning of the Kali Yuga, or a little later part of the Kali Yuga, we have seen all these Abrahamic religions taking birth, and due to which we have seen a lot of religious intolerance, a lot of wars, a lot of deaths happen due to this, and we have seen and we are seeing this happening today. Is there any reference in the Vedic scriptures that this would be one of the causes or the main cause for the end of the Kali Yuga? Is it?
No, there is no such reference, because by the time Kali Yuga ends, maybe most of these forms of religion will have drastically transformed into something else, and therefore there is no mention. Sri Vyasadeva does not mention about events which take up only a few thousand years of. Sri Vyasadeva mentions events which are like long lasting, which have long lasting effects. So there is no mention about any intermediate religions. See, one thing is there are. It's not that today's talk is not for saying that all Abrahamic religions have no good qualities. There are some good qualities propagated in every form of religion, and this talk is not to rain down upon any form of religion. In fact, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in one of his bhajans, he says, Keno ar karo dvesh videshi jana bhajane, bhajanera linga nana deshe nana jane. Keno ar karo dvesh. Why do you have disregard for the way Bhagavan is worshipped by other people? So, personally speaking, we should not have any disregard, but it is a fact that the denominations and sub-denominations and sub-denominations that have been created in Abrahamic religions and the implications of belonging to another denomination is eternal hell or something like that in many of the Abrahamic religions. That and the burning desire to save everybody, even at the cost of killing them sometimes, is something which has caused a lot of strife in the world. This we have to say very clearly. Many Abrahamic religions do not give any consideration to the freedom of an individual in choosing their path. You have absolutely no freedom in choosing your path. There is only one path, and if you don't select that path, you are going to eternal hell. So that lack of freedom, it is not logical, because Bhagavan is the one who has given freedom of choice. And then Bhagavan is the one if Bhagavan is the one who says only one choice is the correct one, then why did you create so many choices? Which means you are the one who is indirectly pushing most people towards hell. So the responsibility of pushing people into eternal hell will also fall upon Bhagavan. And therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it is not logical at all. And this we should know. But nothing specific is mentioned, because these forms of religion, they are very, what do we say, ephemeral. Ephemeral means constantly changing. Christianity, as when it began, was a completely different religion. Christianity, when the church came about, was a completely different religion. Christianity today is a completely different religion. And after 100 years, Christianity will be a completely different religion. Let me tell something about the origins of Christianity. Christianity didn't begin as a formal religion. There was no church in the beginning. The early Christians were groups of people who used to help the poor and the needy and the lepers and the suffering. They tried to drive away the suffering of the people around them. That's how Christianity became very popular. Christianity didn't become very popular initially because of the church. Christianity became popular because of the generous nature and the helping nature of the early Christians who were unorganized. After a few centuries after the purported passing away of Jesus Christ, the church was formally established, and this was institutionalization of Christianity. This is when Christianity turned into churchianity, basically. And then the church started saying that the church is the only way to go to God. That's what the church did. And this obviously led to a lot of discomfort. And then there were many factions within the church, and there were Protestants, and then there were the Catholics, and then there were so many of them, more than 70 or 80, maybe hundreds of denominations of Christianity. So the original idea may have many good things, but it has drastically transformed from early day Christianity. Drastically transformed. In fact, in modern day Christianity, there are churches which are very flexible towards all sorts of people. In America, if you go, there are churches which are flexible towards men who consider themselves women or women who consider themselves men. But 100 years ago, if you ask Christians if such concepts are allowed, they'll say, no, these people are going to burn in hell if they call a man a woman and a woman a man. So it's drastically changing. You have to understand these things. And so why should we ask them have to mention anything about
Okay.
religions which are so ephemeral that their foundations change every few hundred years. Perhaps the only serious philosopher in Christianity was Thomas Aquinas. And you can say Thomas Aquinas was perhaps the most intellectual era of Christianity. And those who have read Thomas Aquinas seriously will know. But still, Thomas Aquinas can take you so far because he is limited by the framework of Christianity. But once you are in the framework of Vedanta, you have no limitations. So that makes a big difference. Right? So I hope that answers your
Yes.
query.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thomas Aquinas has a quote where he talks about part of the pleasure of being in heaven is that you can see the people in hell and watch them suffer.
Right. The sadistic pleasure of being in heaven. And look upon those lesser mortals suffering in hell. If only they would have made the correct choice.
Next we have Bhagavan Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving another chance. So, Prabhuji, this topic actually for me is a big pain point. I always struggle with many things in Vedic literatures and modern science and so many things. So the next question is: some sections of the Smriti Shastra is claimed to be interpolated at the later point of time. So what's the yardstick for us to know that this is actually interpolated or this not? Because if we think of some section to be interpolated, then it may come as an offense, as we have seen in the case of Uttarkand in Ramayana. That is till today it's so controversial.
Sure. So if there is a doubt that a certain part of a literature is interpolated, what do we do? So there is a very simple rule in Shastra that whenever there is a virod means contradiction of Shruti and Smriti. Shruti takes precedence, Vedas take precedence, and there is no interpolation in the Vedas because Vedas are preserved in thousands of sampradayas and there is no question of interpolation there. And therefore, the concept of sampradaya is so important. Sampradaya is unavachinna Guru Shishya Parampara, unbroken Guru Shishya tradition is needed. It's not just bookish knowledge. It is knowledge passing from one living personality to another living personality. And if there is a smriti, which is coming down in unbroken Guru Shishya Parampara, which means there will be a good amount of commentary on that smriti, which means all the aspects of that smriti will be explained. Why is it so? Why is this particular rule mentioned in this smriti? But if there is a smriti which is an obscure one, on which there are no commentaries, which is not taught in a Guru Shishya Parampara, then you have to accept it if it does not contradict the Shruti, if it does not contradict the main principles of the Vedas. Otherwise, even the Vedas will not force you to accept a principle like that. I hope you are able to understand that you are only among Veda is a kalpataru, it's a desire tree, and you are not supposed to accept everything from there. You are only supposed to accept according to the Guru Shishya Parampara, according to the Sampradaya that you have chosen, according to the goal of life that you have determined. Accordingly, certain Shrutis, certain Smritis will not be applicable for you. If you have taken karma kand as your goal of life, then the three Vedas will apply to you. Vedanta will stop applying to you. Vedanta will say, sorry, you have no business here, so please don't study us. If you have taken moksha as your goal of life, then Vedanta says, okay, all right, welcome. Athato, atah, Brahma Jigyasa. Now that you are done with karma kand, come here, now Brahma Jigyasa. Because till now there was Dharma Jigyasa, inquiry into what is Dharma. But beyond Dharma, there is Brahma, Athato, Brahma Jigyasa. Now understand what is Brahma. So then Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. Arjun become indifferent, to those statements given in the Vedas. Yamimam Pushpitam Vacham Pravadanti. They speak flowery words. Arjun, the intelligent, don't pay any attention to it. Isn't it? Bhagavan is himself saying that according to Guru Shishya Parampara, you will be told what is to be accepted, what is not to be accepted. This is called Nirakshir Vivek, distinguishing between water and milk. So the Hamsa, the swan, knows when to what is water and what is milk, what should be accepted, what should not be accepted. So you will learn in Guru Shishya Parampara, and then you will be told this particular Shruti or Smriti doesn't seem to be in accordance with the Vedas. Maybe it is a fabricated one. And since it is going against the conclusions of the Vedas, there is no harm in keeping it aside. Even if Bhagavan speaks against the Vedas, we will keep aside that Bhagavan. Therefore, we don't celebrate Buddha Purnima. We don't fast on the appearance day of Bhagavan Buddha. We fast on the appearance day of Bhagavan Ram. We fast on the appearance day of Bhagavan Vaman Dev. But no fasting on Bhagavan Buddha Dev. Never. Because if you speak against the Vedas, we will not accept you even if you are Bhagavan. That is our faith in the Vedas. Even if you are Bhagavan, we will not accept you. That is our faith. In Vedic philosophy, in Indian forms of religion, Astik and Nastik, theist and atheist, is not according to belief in God. Theist or atheist is according to belief in Veda. So, in Vedic philosophy, you are an atheist if you don't believe in the Vedas, not if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe in the Vedas. And you are a theist if you believe in the Vedas. And if Bhagavan also sides with the atheist, we will say, Bhagavan, thank you very much. We don't want to have anything to do with you. You might have had your purpose, but we don't want to have anything to do with you. We do not even celebrate your appearance day. Although you may see that Buddha Purnima is on the Vaishnav calendar. You will see it in the Vaishnav calendar, Buddha Purnima. But there is no fasting on that particular day. Therefore, in the Ramanandi Sampradaya, there was Shri Tulsidas. Shri Tulsidas wrote the nice Doha. In Dohavali, he says, Atulit Mahima Ved ki Tulsi kiye vichar, jo nindat nindit bhayo vidit Buddha avatar. Atulit Mahima Ved ki. What a glory there is for Vedas. Tulsi kiye vichar. Tulsidas thinks about it. How glorious the Vedas are. Jo nindat nindit bhayo. By critiquing the Vedas, he himself became the critiqued one. Who became the critiqued one? Vidit Buddha avatar. Buddha himself became criticized by critiquing the Vedas. That is the glory of the Vedas. So I hope that answers your question.
Next we have Vidyalala Samataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is regarding the Niraprad thing that you just mentioned, that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentioned in Madhurya Kadambini. That reminded me of the verse, another verse from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur from his commentary in Srimad Bhagavatam in Ajamil Prasanga. So there he says that there are only two steps for someone who chants offenselessly. One is Nam Grahan and the other one is Vaikuntharohan. Would you be able to please comment on that one, Prabhu? Please.
Nam Grahan and
Vaikuntharohan. Do you want me
Vaikunt.
to tell you the verse?
Sure, you can tell me the verse number. And I'll also try to find here.
It is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, chapter 2, verse 9, between verse 9 and 10. It's in the commentary.
Yes.
It says, Niraparadha nantu bhagavat prapto nasti vilambas tesham hi bhagvan nama grahanam vaikuntharohanan cheti dve eva bhumike yatha
Here,
ajam miladhanam.
here it is. Here
Yeah,
it is.
that one,
It's
Prabhu.
in front of you. You're sure. So here he says, Atas, first he says, Atas tesham kshīna सर्व अपराधत्वे सति एव भगवन्तं प्राप्तानां न पुनर्भवः. अतस्तेषां, for those devotees, क्षीण सर्व अपराधत्वे सति एव, after all aparadhas have diminished, bhagavantam praptanam, and they have attained Bhagwan, na punarbhava, they don't take birth again in the material world. Niraparadhanam tu bhagavat praptau nasti vilambah. For those who are niraparad, those who are completely, free from offenses, bhagavat praptau nasti vilambas, there is no delay. Tesham hi bhagwan nama grahanam vaikuntharohanam cheti dve eva bhumike. And for them there are only two steps: becoming niraparad, free from aparad, and becoming and climbing into Vaikuntha. So those are the only two steps, right? But this is in context of the previous statement. Bhagavantam praptanam, those who have attained Bhagwan. Below, you have not read this part. Niraparadhanam api keshamchit prema vishesha sishadi yushunam bhagavat praptau kinchid vilambopi. For now, there is also a case when there is a certain delay. Yathaivaadi Bharatasya Janmatrayam Abhut, just like Bharat Maharaj had 3 births, although he was. So, Mataji, we have to read the entire commentary. All right. So, this is the
Thank you, Prabhu.
answer to the query.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you for the
Krishna.
classes, Prabhu.
My pleasure. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Next we have Satya Sankalpa Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
My-
Pranam. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yeah, I can also see you.
Okay. Prabhuji, thank you so much for that wonderful class. I just have a small follow-up from Bhagavat Prabhu's question and your amazing answer. Actually, I had a very similar discussion with somebody a few days back. Can you provide any references from Shastra to suggest that when somebody is following a certain line based on the instructions of the Guru, they can overlook other parts of Shrutis and Smritis because there might be some contradiction, apparent contradiction between them?
No, see, there is I have many times I have specified Udit Anudit Hom Nyay. So this is the classic example of that is Udit Anudit Hom Nyay. That is specified in Nyay Shastra, and it is also specified by Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan in his commentary on Laghu Bhagavatamrita. So let me see if I can locate that. Yes. Here is Shri Rupa Goswami speaking in Laghu Bhagavatamritam. विरोधो वाक्ययोर्यत्र न प्रामाण्यं तदिष्यते यथा विरुद्धता च स्यात् तथार्थः कल्प्यते तयोः. Virodho vakyayorYatra, wherever there is a contradiction between two statements, even if the two statements are in the Vedas, na apramanyam tadishyate. It's not that one statement becomes false. So easily you can't declare one statement as false. First attempt should be yatha aviruddhata cha syat. Here yatha, and there should be yatha aviruddhata cha syat. That there try to establish aviruddhata, non-contradiction. And tatha artha kalpyate tayo, and that meaning should be taken, which gives non-contradiction between both the statements. So that is what Sri Rupa Goswami says. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says, Virodho vakyayor yatra iti yatha udita anudita homa vidhayanor vakyayoho shrutitva visheshat na apramanyam. So in Shrutis, there are some statements, udite hotavyam, offer fire sacrifice after sunrise. If you don't offer fire sacrifice after sunrise, the dogs of the demigods will eat your offerings. Another part of the Vedas says anudite hotavyam, offer sacrifice before sunrise. Otherwise, another set of dogs will eat your offerings. And then when should I offer sacrifice? Before sunrise or after sunrise? In both cases, the dogs are going to eat my offerings, and I don't want them to eat it. I want the devatas to receive my offerings. So the solution given in Nyaya Shastra, because Nyaya Shastra is faithful to the Vedas. Although Nyaya Shastra says that the Vedas were produced at a certain point of time, it differentiates from, it is different from Vedanta in that regard. It says the Vedas have a beginning, but Nyaya Shastra says Veda, even though they have a beginning, Vedas are the words of Bhagavan. And Nyaya Shastra defends Vedas and says Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya. It says that you should follow your school. So if your school says that offer fire sacrifice before sunrise, then you follow your school. And if your school says offer fire sacrifice after sunrise, then you follow your school. In both schools, by following both schools, the negative effects of the other school won't apply to you. That is what will happen. So that there it is, classic example. Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya. Right? Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan quoting Nyaya Shastra. That is where it is mentioned. So I hope that answers your query.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Next we have Tapo Mahāprabhu. Tapo Mahāprabhu, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm here. First of all, I apologize for not being on video. I'm traveling back from a doctor's appointment.
I'm not able to hear anything, Prabhu. I'm not able to hear.
If you
Prabhuji,
find
can you hear me now, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah.
My apologies, Prabhuji. I'm not on actually video call. I'm actually traveling back from a doctor's appointment. So that's why I was not able to do a video call on video call. But I want to really thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. And Prabhuji, my question is that just before this, my question, you were explaining how one should follow one's own school. So my question is, Prabhuji, even in our own in our own school. So for example, we have a book, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and there are so many rules and regulations defined in that. So for example, in the month of Kartik, one should not eat kidney beans. If one eats that, there's a certain negative result for that, and so many so forth. But we see that we generally don't follow, and even Prabhupada also said things like, just chant Hare Krishna. You don't need to follow Chaturmasya, and so many statements come out like that, which says, okay, focus on the main thing, Harinam, and maybe rules and regulations, like so many detailed rules and regulations. For example, tomorrow there's a moon eclipse, but generally there are detailed rules and regulations for that, but devotees generally don't follow that. So how to understand that, Prabhuji, what to follow, what not to follow? Because as per my understanding, Gaudiya Vaishnavas should focus on Bhagavatam and Goswami Shastras. And I'm not sure if Mahabharata comes into the purview of Gaudiya Vaishnavism.
Sure. So whenever such doubts arise, it's important to consult the previous acharyas. The previous acharyas have said a very simple thing. Sri Rupa Goswami says, Smartavyah satatam Vishnur vismartavyo na jatuchit sarve vidhi nishedhasyur etayoreva kinkara. The central yardstick is that you should always remember Bhagavan and never forget Bhagavan. All other rules and regulations are subservient to this. And there's a very good example of this practical demonstration of this in the Gaudiya Math. Usually when there was Ekadashi, the sannyasis used to fast for throughout the day, would not eat anything, and would chant 64 rounds. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he saw one sannyasi who was planning on doing prachar that day, going and speaking Hari Katha to somebody, not just staying in the mutt and doing 64 rounds. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said to his personal assistant, he said, make sure he's given Ekadashi Prasad. sufficient. Make sure he's given that, because he has understood a higher principle. So the rules don't apply to him as strictly as they apply to others. So he had his personal assistant cook Ekadashi Prasad for this particular sannyasi who was going out on prachar. So that flexibility is there, because this person is not only personally remembering Vishnu, but he's also helping other people remember Vishnu, that one Ekadashi. So that's the unconventional guru. Secondly, as long as a devotee is favorable towards Krishna, as long as a devotee is not missing out on their favorability, the devotee is sincere and not purposely avoiding any rules and regulations. There's a very nice verse which is at the end of the Vishnu Sahasranam. Ma Vasudeva Bhaktanam Ashubham Vidyate Kvachit Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Bhayam Vapyupajayate. This should be Ma Vasudeva Bhaktanam Ma Vasudeva Bhaktanam Ashubham Vidyate Kvachit. There is no Ashubha, there is no inauspiciousness. Kvachit, at any point of time, for Vasudeva Bhaktanam, for devotees of Vasudeva. They are not afraid of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, old age, disease, death, Bhayam. They are not fearful of that, Upajayate. So, rules of Shastra don't scare the devotees because especially those devotees who are one-pointedly focused on Bhagavan. So sometimes you are not able to follow, sometimes devotees are not able to follow Chaturmas, and but their focus is deeply on Bhagavan. So although a sincere devotee should follow Chaturmas, but sometimes they are not able to follow due to certain circumstances. But as long as they are favorable towards Bhagavan, their remembrance of Bhagavan is unhampered, smaller aspects are taken care of automatically. So that is what can be said. I hope that answers your query.
Next we have Bhakti Pravina Mataji.
Hare Krishna. My next question is, in India, as we have heard today, any philosophy has to be judged by the system of Nyaya. And Mahāprabhu also himself was an expert in logic in his early part of life. And this makes Nyaya seem very authoritative. And in your session on Spota, we learned that Nyaya Shastris say even the syllables of Veda get destroyed, and they even say Harinam is not eternal. So how can it be that those who represent this Nyaya, the measuring stick for all philosophies, how can they believe something like this?
Yes, sure. See, Nyaya is the first line of defense in Indian philosophy, because if any philosophy that comes to India has to first and foremost stand the test of Nyaya Shastra. Now, this does not mean that Nyaya Shastris are free from four defects. Because if you see the entire system of Nyaya, is not focused so much on Pratyaksh Praman, not focused so much on Shabda Praman. The entire system of Nyaya is focused mainly on Anuman Praman. You can say perhaps majority of the discussion in Nyaya Shastra is centered around Anuman Praman. And Anuman Praman includes many other Praman within itself. And so Pratigya, Hetu, Drishtant, Upanay. So like there are 5 steps of Anuman Praman. So Anuman Praman is the main Praman of Nyaya Shastra. But Anuman Praman is Sadosh. It is subject to fault. And no matter how much the Nyaya Shastris try to free it from faults, Anuman Praman will never become free of faults. So if you ask the Nyaya Shastris, why do you say that Shabda is non-eternal? They will say because it is produced and destroyed. And whatever is produced and destroyed is non-eternal. But Nyaya Shastris don't take into consideration that there are some things which are not produced and destroyed. They appear and disappear. There is a difference between production and destruction, appearance and disappearance. So that is where a Nyaya Shastri can also make a mistake. But when it comes to logic and argumentation, and when it comes to testing the logic of various systems of religion, Nyaya Shastra is the first line of defense of Vedic religion. Because Nyaya Shastra, although it doesn't believe in the eternality of the words of the Vedas, still it believes in the Vedas. That is, it may not believe in the eternality of the syllables, still it believes in the divinity of the Vedas. And therefore, it is a semi-theistic system of defense. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an expert not in only in Nyaya but in Navya Nyaya. Because what happened, the old system of Nyaya, which was given by Gautam Muni, was demolished by one Advaitvadi named Shri Harsh in Khandana Khanda Khadyam. So Shri Harsh in his Khandana Khanda Khadyam, he said, Nyaya Shastra, I will demolish all the principles. Which Praman do you believe in? Shabda Praman. Acha. What is Shabda Praman? Aptopadesha Shabda. The testimony of a reliable person is known as Shabda Praman. Acha. I'll demolish it. Your established people also speak lies. For example, Yudhishthir. He also spoke a lie during the war of Mahabharata. Ashwathama hata iti narova kunjarova. Ashwathama was killed because of the lie that Yudhishthir Maharaj spoke. So if Yudhishthir Maharaj can also lie, your Shabda Praman is faulty. Khandanam. Therefore, it is your Shabda, your entire basis of Nyaya Shastra was demolished by one Advaitavadi named Shri Harsh. Then it was re-established painstakingly by saying that Shabda Praman is of two types, Paurushaya and Apaurushaya. Paurushaya is Shabda Praman of a human being. Apaurushaya is Shabda Praman of the Vedas. So Paurushaya Shabda Praman can have faults, but Apaurushaya does not have any faults. So like that, then Navya Nyaya has covered all those faults. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu studied that. But it is very important for those who want to sharpen their intelligence. It's important to study this branch of knowledge, which is Nyaya Shastra. And although it may have its defects, no system of knowledge in the world is without its defects. But it is perhaps the closest you can get to logical perfection in the material world. And there is no other parallel system which can bring you so close to logical perfection that Nyaya Shastra can get you to. So that is what can be said, right?
I need to hand
Yeah,
over the
thank you.
hosting role to someone else.
Oh, I'll take over. Param Karuna Prabhu,
Okay.
is he there? Param Karuna Prabhu, are you there? I think he's busy. So I can.
I'm here, Prabhuji, but we are in
sure.
Rath Yatra, so
Sure. No, I'll take over. No problem. Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next we have Bhaktin Sonam. Yes. Hare Krishna. Please, Bhaktin Sonam. No, there is no audio.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, pranams. Please accept. Okay. Prabhu, is it audible? Okay. So, Prabhu, my question is
just please keep the camera stable and please ask. Yes.
Prabhu, the question is those three, that picture you showed with those three ladies, and you asked like, what do you see here? So when I saw that picture, I saw three colors, which is part of Shri Krishna's Charan Kamal. So is there any link between that and Shri Krishna?
The links can be made, unlimited links can be made, but the obvious link is that it is a worship of feminine deities, and worship of feminine deities especially originates in the Vedas, because there is Śrī-Suktam right there in the Vedas. So worship of feminine deities is there in the Vedas, because in all other forms of religion in the world, God is masculine or formless. God is referred to as he, or God is formless. So the only form of religion in the world where divinity has feminine forms is Vedic religion. And that is the specialty of Vedic religion. And that common connection is there. And also the aspects of the Devis having a vahan, a vehicle, an animal as a vehicle, or carrying weapons. So those are common factors which are seen in Vedic forms of religion and the images that were shown. So that is what can be said. Other than that, many similarities can be derived, but obvious similarities I spoke of. And I wanted, because there are many people who just want to connect everything to Vedic culture. I don't want to go in that direction. There are many things which have been modified from Vedic culture and taken so far apart from Vedic culture that nowadays no connection remains. And as I said, when 7 generations are separated, Manusmriti calls it Kriyalop. Shanaka is to Kriyalopat, Kriyalop. There is no resemblance of Vedic culture remaining. But still, wherever obvious connections are seen, I specified. Zoroastrianism, you see the terms in the Avestan language, you will immediately be reminded of Sanskrit. In fact, there was a book written in Hindi where a learned scholar compared the hymns of the Zend Avesta with the hymns of the Rig Veda and showed which hymn of the Zend Avesta is from which hymn of the Rig Veda. So those sorts of scholarly comparisons look good and they're very justified. And they show the obvious connections because the Avestan language has so many terms from Sanskrit. And the Slavic languages, Russian Slavic languages, Eastern European languages have so many cultural connections with Sanskrit. But those obvious connections I want to highlight, definitely. But far-fetched connections I don't want to highlight because they are uncertain. All right?
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Next, Bhagavat Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Prabhuji, for asking so many questions when your shoulder is not well.
No, that's all right. That's okay. Yeah.
This topic is really important to me. Prabhuji, finally, I just want to know a practical way because so many doubt comes. I don't know. This is a sort of a part of my personality. I don't know, but so many doubts are there while reading certain things, and I'm always fearing aparadh because I had a discussion with a devotee about a topic about Srimad Bhagavatam where I couldn't understand, I couldn't comprehend some things of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I thought in that discussion I committed this offense actually, and I don't know what to do because after that time some things are not very well in my sadhana bhajan also.
What's your query?
My query is how to when a doubt comes, how to actually deal with it without being offensive. How can I ask someone so that it doesn't seem that I'm trying to contradict the shastra?
Well, asking a logical doubt is always allowed as long as your language is proper and polite. You can even contradict Bhagavan Shri Krishna as long as your language is polite. Isn't it? That is Vedic culture. Arjun contradicted Bhagavan Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjun said, Vyamishreneva Vakyana, Mohayasi me. You are as if seems as if you are speaking mixed messages to me. First glorifying Jnana Yoga and then glorifying Karma Yoga. Why are you speaking mixed messages to me, Bhagavan? And when Bhagavan says, control your mind, Arjun says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, pramathi balavadrina, tasya nigrahanam manye, vayorupi sudushkaram. The mind is so fickle, so powerful. I think it is easier to control the blowing wind with my arrows than to control the mind. So, and Krishna immediately, Asamshayam, certainly Arjun, I agree with you. Immediately next question, Asamshayam, I agree with you, Arjun. So that's how a proper guru teaches and a proper disciple inquires. So as long as the queries are polite, there is no harm in putting such queries. Krishna, how can I understand that you spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god thousands of years ago? I was not present to see it. So, so isn't it? Isn't it? How can I believe you, Krishna? Short and sweet. The query is, Krishna, how can I believe you when you say that you spoke this knowledge, Raj Vidya, Raj Guhyam, to Surya Dev, so many millions of years ago. So even he's doubting the statement of his guru, and his guru is none other than Shri Krishna. But the query is polite. He did not say, Krishna, you're lying. Krishna, you're lying. You didn't speak the Gita to Surya. Come on. Yeah. So that's not the way query should be put. Query should be put in a polite manner. And the guru should also be of that mindset. Because sometimes, how dare you question? That's not a guru. You can question anything. This is Vedic culture. Everything has to stand the scrutiny of logic. Everything has to stand the scrutiny of analysis. So, you can question anything, but proper attitude. That's all.
Prabhuji, in that context, I receive responses that everything cannot be understood with logic, and you have to have some faith. I know faith is necessary. I have to have faith, but I don't know. My faith is based on logic. Is it?
Faith is based not on blind belief. Faith based on Shastra. Everything cannot be explained by logic, but most things can be explained by Shastra. Most things can be explained by Shastra. There are some things which even Shastra cannot explain, where even logic cannot go. In the Upanishad, it is yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. Brahma, the absolute truth is such that words bounce off the impersonal Brahman and without giving a definite meaning. That is what Brahman is. You can't describe it in words. The name Brahman has been given to it, although it is Anama, it has no name in the material world. Why the name Brahma has been given to it? For denoting it. Otherwise, Upanishad say Tat, Tat, Tvama, Tat. The shortest word is Tat, Tat Padartha. But why give the name Tat also? Actually, it has no material name. Okay, then how will we refer to it? So, for our convenience, we give it name Brahma, Tat. But actually, it has no material name. But like this. So, Shabda Praman also, because the jivas are limited, Shabda Praman also has its limitations. But in most cases, Shabda Praman will be able to explain. And belief in Shabda Praman, not belief in some person, belief in Shabda Praman is what constitutes faith, is what constitutes Shraddha. Not just blind belief in what somebody said. That is not Shabda Praman. Shraddha is Shastrartha Vishwas. That is what Sri Jiva Goswami says in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So that is what Shraddha is. Right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I just wanted to apologize for my because I started that intense discussion about Guru Avagya in the group, so you had to disable the chat. I really wanted to apologize.
No, that I'll deal with that particular issue. I just don't want back and forth discussions in the group on that one topic, because back and forth discussions tend to get heated when we lose sight of how we should speak. Your query might have been good, but the responses somehow took it in another direction, I believe. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat swadhyaya bhasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. That is what Bhagavad Gita says how speech should be. Anudvega karam vakyam. So your query was good, but maybe subsequent back and forth interactions should have been should have been done in a different manner. That's what I can say. Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So we have reached the end, and there are no more raised hands. Thank you very much. Thank you to Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu for kindly hosting today's talk. Thank you, Param Karuna Prabhu, for being the co-host. Thank you, dear devotees. I'll unmute all of you. Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. My pranams. Jai Srila
Thank you.
Prabhupada. Jai Srila
Bye.
Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you.
Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada.
प्रभु की जय
Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
कोटि वैष्णव की जय
Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.